Welcome, members and guests, to the Cities and Counties Subcommittee. Good morning, all of you watching out there. And at this time, Mr. Hutchison, will you take the roll?
Vice Chairman Coffey. Present. Representative Chisholm. Here. Chairman Crawford. Present. Weeder Gant. Chairman Helton. Here. Representative Miller. Vice Chairman Wright. Here. Chairman Moon.
Present.
Chairman Moon, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Are there any announcements or personal orders at this time? I'd like to welcome everyone that's watching online, the thousands of viewers we have. So we will take up our first bill on the calendar this morning. It is House Bill 2356 by Whip Garrett. We have a motion and a second on House Bill 2356. Representative Garrett, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This legislation was brought to me by the city of Hendersonville. They have a mayor or a board of mayor and alderman type of government. They passed a resolution on 2 different meetings to institute term limits for their mayor and board and alderman. And this legislation allows them to pursue that by a referendum to the citizens of the city of Hendersonville if they want to institute term limits. So this is just the authorizer to have a referendum for the city of Hendersonville to vote on whether or not they want to institute term limits for their mayor and board of aldermen. So with that, Mr. Chairman of the committee, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions, comments? Vice Chairman Wright, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let me hear it one more time. It applies to only one municipality.
Whip Garrett.
Great question. Yes, this only applies to the city of Hendersonville, and that's it.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Seeing none, is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 2356. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes prevail. Moves to the next available calendar of local government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Next bill on the calendar is House Bill 2508 by Representative Valin. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second on House Bill 2508. Representative Valin, you are recognized.
The bill establishes an opportunity for members to designate a voting alternate, and that's because a lot of times the mayors who serve on this, they might be busy and they might send their planner.
Do you have an amendment on the bill, Representative?
Do we have an amendment? We do have an amendment.
You do have an amendment. Do I have a
Thank
motion?
you.
It's Amendment 14191. We have a motion. Do we have a second on the amendment? We have a motion and a second on Amendment 014191. And Representative Lynn, you're recognized on the amendment.
Okay, thank you very much. And I am looking for the amendment. Bill Summary Fiscal Note Amendment. It simply renumbers sections of the bill accordingly.
Delete Section 7 of your bill text. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Section 7 deals with bonding. Representative Wright, do you have a question?
Well, let me make a comment and turn it into a question. It's my impression that this Section 7 is maybe a separate bill traveling with a different sponsor. So the reason you've deleted your Section 7 is so that the other person's bill will then take effect.
Representative Lynn, I believe let's stay on the bill as presented.
Well, okay.
I see the
Right.
comment.
That's the amendment, though, the amendment is to remove that, though, right?
Remove that.
Correct. Remove and renumber, and has to do with bonding. Representative Lynn, you're still recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, sir. That is what the amendment does. It removes a section and renumbers.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Chairman Crawford, you're recognized on the amendment,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, if the amendment is taken out, what does the bill do at that point?
It will allow for the designation of an alternate for voting at the development district. It clarifies that officers of the council also serve as officers of the board of directors. The existing language is a little confusing, and it makes it sound like there's two different two different boards, and so there is not. It clarifies that officers of the council also serve as officers of the board of directors. And this bill does not otherwise alter the duties or powers of the council in any way. It's GNRC is a development district, and this is the council for the development district. It also aligns certain other requirements for powers of the council, and it doesn't modify the membership, however, or the organizational structure.
Chairman Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must have not asked that question correctly. If we do not pass the amendment, how does that affect this
Oh,
bill?
I'm sorry.
Representative Lynn.
It would leave the requirements for bonds, insurance, auditing, reporting in the bill. In the
Chairman
bill.
Crawford, that's.
It would leave that in the bill.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on amendment 014191. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. No. The ayes prevail. The amendment goes on. We're back on the bill. Representative Lynn, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you. GNRC is a 93-member body composed of 13 county mayors and 52 municipal mayors. And as you can imagine, sometimes they're very busy and they can't always get to the meetings themselves. So this bill will basically allow them to appoint someone to go to the meeting and vote for them. Normally, it's the city planner or the county planner because they have the most information about what GNRC is working with. And so this bill will make that much smoother for the voting members of the GNRC.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Any other comments for the sponsor? Is there objection to the question? Vice Chairman Wright, you're recognized.
So this planning commission, or this Greater Nashville, was formed in the Middle Ages or a long time ago or something like that. And then there are other regional councils, if we want to look at it that way.
That's right.
So does this bring them a little bit more closer in alignment as how they are all then looked at?
Representative Lynn.
I'm not sure. I know that every development district has a regional council, and how they conduct themselves, I'm not entirely sure. Other regional councils might look at this legislation and like that idea, because you can imagine with so many members, 93-member body, 13 county mayors, 52 municipal mayors, as you can imagine, that's a big body. They all get together and work on these planning issues. And sometimes these mayors do need to appoint someone. And generally, when I attend, a lot of times I will see a city planner there or a county planner. They don't have voting rights necessarily, but this would allow the mayor to designate that person to vote on the issue for them.
Vice Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 2508. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes prevail. House Bill 2508 moves to the next available calendar of local government. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, committee.
The next bill is House Bill 2384 by Leader Gant. Is there a motion on the bill? We have a motion and a second on the bill. Leader Gant, you're recognized on House Bill 2384.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I want to point out that this legislation is being brought by our treasurer, David Lillard. And what this legislation is doing is addressing the LoSAP program that he initiated last year in previous legislation that we've presented. And pursuant to legislation that we passed last year, the state treasurer is in the process of establishing a length of service award program, which is what we call LoSAP, for volunteer firefighters, emergency medical service providers, and ambulance drivers. Generally, a LoSAP is funded by contributions from the participating eligible employers, which may include local governments, volunteer fire departments, and our nonprofit entities that utilize volunteers. The volunteers themselves do not contribute. This bill would amend the law to provide that the state treasurer may implement a program to award grants to eligible employers to match the employer's contributions to the LoSAP. Each grant would be a one-to-one match of the employer's contributions with a maximum of $200 per participating volunteer and a maximum of 25 volunteers per employer. The grants would be awarded annually on a first-come, first-served basis beginning July 1st of 2023. In each fiscal year thereafter, obviously subject to the availability of the funds from this. This bill would, obviously take effect on becoming law, and I'll be glad to take any questions from the committee, but I would move passage of this.
Questions? Vice Chairman Wright, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and due to the seat that the presenter holds in the committee, but I do have a couple of questions. In that, where does this funding, how does it appear to the volunteer? Is this like a 1099 or ordinary income, or where does the money sit until the the volunteer receives it, and then how do they receive it from that technical point of view of transaction of funds to an employee?
Yeah,
Leader Gant.
Good question, Representative Wright. I think that this actually sets up that fund and program so that it can be administered. That's what the legislation is actually addressing in passing this.
Vice Chairman Wright.
So we don't know then how this gets credited to the volunteer as in the form of income?
Leader
Yeah.
Gant. Leader Gant.
Well, I think that, are you asking how they apply? Is that?
Well, volunteers are going to be recognized and be given an award. Is this categorized as ordinary income?
Leader Gant.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we have Roy West here with the treasurer, and before I overstep and say something that may not be quite exact, let me defer to him if we can go out of session and let him address that concern, because I don't want to, misspeak and tell you the wrong answer.
No, I truly appreciate that, because just my comment is I need everyone up front to understand a couple of other comments that I have to make along the same line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, without objection, we'll go out of session here from Roy West from Finance, from the Treasurer's Office.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. In response to the question that's been asked, the individual this sets up a savings. So last session, the General Assembly set up a savings program that would be administered under the Department of Treasury. And so it would be much like any other type of savings vehicle, similar to a 401k, in that an individual would serve, and then contributions would be placed in the account for that individual. There would be a vesting period, likely 5 years, and then an age requirement in order to withdraw those funds from the account. So it would be held in an account for that individual over a period of time until they are eligible to withdraw the funds out of the program after they've met the vesting requirement and the age requirement.
Question for Mr. West. Vice Chairman Wright.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So I understand it's a future disbursement, which, as you say, may look like a 401k.
Yes, sir.
Mr. West.
So may I continue with
Yes.
other questions related to this? The program, let me say something up front. I'm voting in favor of this. I just need to make sure that we understand what ground we're standing on. To me, if I'm a volunteer, this looks like a promise. But we've got 2 or 3 clauses in it. If the organization is too large, if the funds are not available, the promise the promise may not be fulfilled. What do you offer in response to that?
Mr. West, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to the question, this allows the treasurer to create a grant program whereby a entity that has funds available to it, that has volunteers, may elect to contribute and enter into a matching agreement with the treasurer's office. If that entity has they would be able to contribute on behalf of their volunteers. It's not a promise, it is it's opening the door for those entities who have the funds available and who can fundraise or get appropriations from county governments.
Vice Chairman Wright.
Or the one that are left out, first come, first served. So I see lots of doors open for people to be discouraged, but I still support the bill.
Mr. West, you'd like to respond?
Well, we would hope that there wouldn't be discouraged, but this is a pilot program where we could understand the overall demand and hopefully get back to the General Assembly and determine if there's anything that needs to be added to this bill to meet that demand and assist with this program.
Any other questions for Leader Gant? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just also want to point out that, each grant would be a one-to-one match, so which is very important to point out, with a maximum of the $200 for participating. Now, also, this question I want to direct at Roy, just to make sure that me and legal are thinking correctly here. This would be done through the promulgation of the rules, correct?
Mr. West?
Yes, sir, there would be rules that are promulgated.
Okay, all right.
Vice-
I think that address, I'm sorry,
Leader
Mr. Chairman. I think that addresses Representative Wright's concerns as long as it's done through that, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. West while he's at the podium? Seeing none, we will go back into session. We have a question on the bill. Is there objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 2384. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes prevail. House Bill 2384 moves to the next available calendar of local government. Thank you. This concludes today's calendar. Are there announcements? Are there any announcements? Chairman Crawford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just reminding everybody that full local will meet at 12 o'clock in House Hearing Room 1 today.
All right. Any other announcements? Is there objection to adjourning the meeting? Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I did on the House floor last night.